What's up, guys? It's the Trucking Guy back at you, bringing you guys some content. Please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. I appreciate you following. Please leave a comment. Find me on Instagram and Facebook. Let's get right into it. This video is going to be about IFTA and what it is. Okay, a lot of you guys have been asking me what is IFTA. You see the IFTA stickers, you see the content made about IFTA. I'm sure there's other YouTube videos, but IFTA is basically a fuel tax that states charge. A long time ago, they got together and said that in order to maintain these roads, even though you pay on the turnpike and different things, and you pay your taxes, and a lot of people pay tax in the state, in order to maintain these roads, there's an excess of traffic that travels over the roads that's not from our state, not from us. So, basically to determine a way to charge revenue to support those roads and things that come up, they said, let's charge a tax. And how do we measure that tax? It's based on the amount of fuel that you buy in that state and the amount of miles that you drive in that state. And they determine that most of the time. Back in the day, you used to be able to just write a chart. Hey, I drove, 300, this trip I drove 300 miles through Ohio. I drove X amount of miles through Indiana. I drove X amount of miles through, this state, that state, whatever, on your trip. And then on the way back, you do the same thing. And every time you got fuel in whatever state, you would write down, okay, I got, X amount of gallons, 300 gallons in this state, I filled up, and this was the amount of, how much it was per gallon. Well, now they have ELDs, electronic logging devices, or fuel trackers. The ELD is one of the best ways to keep track of that, and your fuel card. Your fuel card can go through and say, okay, all of the gallons that were purchased in Indiana, all of the gallons that were purchased in Ohio, all the gallons that were purchased in Virginia, West Virginia, whatever, it tells you right there, and you're able to file your report, which are done quarterly. The company MC authority has to file a report quarterly on how many gallons were purchased, okay, in each state, okay. And then you can also go to your IFTA department when you apply for your IFTA, and they'll give you a chart on the percentages of who gets what, okay. California gets the highest percentage, I think. And then other states get a lesser percentage, right? So it might be you have to pay $12 this quarter, and next quarter you get a refund because you didn't drive through any of those states. And you got fuel in these states and saved money or whatever. And there is like a strategic way to fuel up in certain states and get, freight in different states. But, I don't really care about that. Some people don't care about that. They're going to run for all 48, or they're going to run, regional or whatever, right? The Midwest, Southeast region or whatever, like we do. So you use IFTA, it'll say, okay, it'll keep track of all your miles. So quarterly, you would say, what did this truck do based on his ELD in miles? And it'll break it down in state. Okay, he did X amount of miles in Texas, 5,000. He did X amount of miles in Arkansas, 2,000. He did X amount in Oklahoma, 3,000. So as you're going all over the place, you don't have to keep track of it anymore. Your IFTA or your ELD does. Then you file that report. Now in the ELD, like ours, we're able to go in there and put in, hey, we got this much fuel in each state, right? So every time the guys get gas or get fuel, or buy diesel, they can go in there and say, okay, we bought, on the hot shots, say they bought 35 gallons or 30 gallons at $3 a gallon, just hypothetically, right? Or on the semis, or if they have a 100-gallon tank in the back, they can say we bought 100 gallons on such and such. It'll say what date, and it'll ping their location where they bought it, right? So when we file the report, it'll say the gallons purchased in each state. It'll say how much they paid per gallon, how much we paid, and that's how they calculate what to charge you. Now, I don't know the exact math that they use to charge you, but you submit this, and they give you an invoice based on what to pay, right? So then you would pay this much money to the IFTA tax. Now, the IFTA sticker that they provide you, as well as your IFTA license that you have to keep in the cab of the truck and on hand in the office, but they give you IFTA sticker, you put that on the side of the truck on both sides, and that lets the DOT officer know that you're a part of the IFTA department. Now, if the audits come in and they make sure that you are doing it properly because they want this maintained properly, they run an audit on what you've provided to them, and then they charge you penalties and interest based on if you file it late, if you're wrong on it, and it can be substantially expensive, guys. So it's very important to stay on top of the IFTA. And it's really not that big of a deal because you have electronic devices now that keep it for you. So all you have to do is just submit the report per truck. If you have a fleet, or if you're just doing it yourself, you can actually, use your ELD, make sure you put that fuel in there. If you're using a fuel card, you can go back and use the fuel card and look at that, where the purchases of the fuel were at, and go through and how much you paid per gallon, because it'll keep track of all that, how much you paid per gallon, how many gallons you bought, the whole nine. And some of you guys get discounts based on gallons. Like back when we were doing a fuel program, we got a monthly thing back on how much everybody got, right? So if we saved, you know, X amount of money, we would get a $50 check a month or a couple $100 check a month, whatever, based on how many trucks save money here and there at different truck stops. So you're able to manage that through the fuel card or through the ELD. Some people use, I think some of the GPSs have a reporting system in them, you know, things like that. The GPSs can also track, like a Garmin Diesel, different thing. I think they can track, the Mali one can track the states that you go through to help you manage your IFTA as well, and it can print out a report. You know, but if you have an ELD in there, it can do it. Most of them can do it. I know Keep Trucking can do it, Geotag can do it. You know, almost all the ones that I can think of can do it. So that's how you manage your IFTA. That's what IFTA is. It's a tax that you're paying that state, okay, and your state divvies that money out to each state. So, you know, Oklahoma would get $8. This person gets $12. This state gets $5. This state don't get nothing because you didn't go through there. This state gets $1. This state gets 40 cents or whatever, right? And then what they do is they take everybody's pool of money. They do that algorithm based on how many gallons you bought in each state, how many times you drove over that state, yada, yada. So if you drove over that state but you didn't buy any fuel there, that is dictated differently than if you bought fuel there, right? So that's basically what it is, guys. If you guys don't know what it is, it's just a fee to pay to help them manage the roads and manage the infrastructure of each state based on you driving over their roads. Because say I'm Oklahoma and you're Arkansas and you have a bunch of trucks driving over my roads all the time, or to get through on their way to New Mexico or whatever, go to the oil field, but I'm not getting paid for that. I have this excess traffic from people that don't live here. Now, people that pay taxes in that state, live there, they pay taxes to take care of the roads, right? Your state income tax and stuff and state taxes. But if you have this outside traffic constantly going over, right, they want to get paid for that wear and tear on their infrastructure, their roads and stuff. So that's what it is. It's a tax to help upkeep that. So they're saying based on, you know, each one has a different percentage of what they get based on the size of it and their infrastructure roads. And it's also based on, I think back in the day when they put it together, how much of outside traffic travels within that state. So I guess maybe California says that, you know, more people from outside the state, semis wise and stuff, travel over our roads than people that actually live here. So we have to get more money or we're bigger or whatever. But it's all the states are within IFTA. Now there's a few that don't subscribe. I think it's New York, New Mexico, Oregon, and maybe Kentucky, right? Because in those states, you have to have a separate permit. Now, I think they went through like lawsuits and stuff in New York, if I'm not mistaken, that they've been fighting this battle for them to become a part of it because all the states agreed to a standardized system, but these ones aren't implementing it. So if you go to New York, they actually give you a fine for not having a HUT sticker, a New York sticker, right? Which is basically you put that on the front of the truck, you pay $75 a year or whatever it is, and that's a whole separate IFTA thing, right? New Mexico does the same thing. It used to be, I think now they've changed it where, because we don't do a lot through New Mexico, but recently this year they've changed it where you used to have to buy, if you're over 26,000 pounds, they would weigh you, you had to come in and buy a fuel tax permit. So they made you prepay in advance. So every time you cross the border, you go to port of entry there in San John or whatever it was, or a different place if you were coming in, and you'd have to pay for your permit to drive through there right then. So you basically prepaid your IFTA because they would tell me, hey, we don't subscribe to IFTA, so you can't pay us later. You got to pay us now. If you're going to drive over my roads, you got to give me money to go through. Like, you got to buy a permit. The same thing is true about Oregon. If you go into Oregon, you need a fuel permit, right? So you go into Oregon, you got to put in, you know, your equipment and different things. You buy a permit. A lot of guys used to buy it, I think, in Utah coming through. But some guys would just buy it online now, you know, different things. But I think now the port of entries don't look at it as you pull up to the port of entry and you buy the permit there. They make you get it online versus getting it there. As far as I know, I haven't been on the road in a while, but I think that's what a couple of my guys told me. They went through there a while back and pulled in, and they said, hey, we had to go through and get it, and then I think my wife got it online. But now we just get it online because it's easier. We know if they go through Oregon, if they go through New Mexico, if they go through wherever, we got to do it. We stay out of New York. I don't like messing with New York. It's just there's no money up there. Nobody likes to go to the boroughs anyway, in the city and stuff. Unless you're from there, everybody else hates it. If you're not from there, you know, don't go there if you've never been there. And into some of the boroughs, it's just tight, you know. Upstate New York, we used to go and stuff, and we didn't see a big benefit in going. So anyway, there, guys. There you have it. That's IFTA all rolled up into a ball. It's basically just a tax for driving over the roads. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Everybody gets, you know, hung up on, I'm going to run non-CDL hot shots, so I don't have to mess with IFTA. I don't have to do this, I don't have to do that. IFTA is literally nothing, man. Just file your reports, use your ELD. It manages everything. You know, you click boom, submit it, You know, in a hot shot truck average, we pay anywhere from, you might pay $12, you might pay $40. It's based on what states you go to and how you buy your fuel. I can't tell you the exact algorithm. It's kind of complicated to that aspect. But what I can tell you is that if you just have your ELD manage it, you submit your report every 3 months, and they tell you how much you got to pay. There's even been times that we didn't pay anything. You know, it was just zeroed out. There's been times that I think we got like a refund of $8 or something. I don't know how it works as far as the exact mathematics of it, but I do know that you just file your report every 3 months. Your ELD manages it, and it's not that big a deal. In a semi, you do have to pay a little bit more money, just based on the way that they buy fuel is a little bit different. Because in a pickup, you're buying, if you don't have a 100-gallon tank, you're buying it more frequently. Semis buy it in a bigger volume less frequently, and then drive through more states without buying, right? So like California gets you on this, and one of the reasons why I think California is higher cost is because people buy fuel before they get into Cali. They have a big tank, 300 gallons, whatever, drive into Cali, deliver a load, pick up a load, come back out, get fuel out of Cali, because Cali fuel is always expensive, right? So it's a way to save money, but in the interim, you have to pay a little bit more on your IFTA because of that aspect. So it's not that big a deal, guys, especially for you hotshot guys. Don't be afraid of it. Go get your IFTA stickers. They're free. You can apply at your IRP unit, where you get your tag, usually at your state capital. You apply, you get your IFTA license. All you have to do is give them your information, your truck, your MC, DOT number, all that stuff. They give you a set of stickers, and then they give you your IFTA license. And that license you put in your binder, you keep it on you at all times so you can provide it to DOT, as well as your IFTA stickers. Slap them on there. Now, no, when you go through New Mexico, Oregon, Kentucky, and New York, they do not subscribe to IFTA, and you have to get permits to go through there. So when you go through New York, you have to have a HUT sticker. You got to buy annually, and you pay that differently. It'll be a separate one. You can set up another account online, as far as I know, in New Mexico and Oregon, and you can get those permits online. But you basically have to buy a permit every time you go through there, and you file it completely differently. Now, I think if you have a fleet like we do, my wife manages it, but we have a different account set up where we can go in there and pay it differently, going through Oregon and New Mexico and some of these different places. So it's not that complicated, guys. It's all done online. It's very simple. You don't have to be afraid of it, and it's just not a scary thing. It's not an expensive thing. It's not really that big a deal. So just get your IFTA stickers, run legal, do the way they want you to do it, and that's the Trucking Guy signing off. Again, follow me, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up, man. Turn on notifications, and we'll catch you on the next one.